must keep her still. I don't want to break the needle.
I believe Joshua Winthrop called his daughter a Lida.
A Lida? That's very appropriate. It's Greek for winged woman.
We are talking The Unnamable 2, the statements of Randolph Carter, also known as simply The Unnamable Returns. This one is once again directed by Jean-Paul Ouellette and has returning characters from the first movie. You have Julie Strain actually kind of playing our creature at this point, who sadly passed away quite recently. You've also got appearances from David Warner and John Rhys-Davies as well. And this follows from the literally immediately after the previous movie, and we actually see the police turn up at the site of the the previous kind of encounter, and this particular one focuses more on Randolph Carter, who is kind of the overachiever brain box from the first movie, and here, basically, he's now the central character rather than Howard, who was kind of more the central character in the first film. And they decide that they want to kind of go back into the house and try and kind of find out what is, more about it. So Randolph's character, or the character of Randolph, goes into the house with John Rhys-Davies' character, who is a professor, and discovers this creature is trapped under the earth with these kind of tree vines, magical tree vines. And they decided to try and experiment on her and separate the demon from the girl who the demon is possessing, to ultimately create two entities. And the girl is then free, played by Lisa Ford, I think it is. Maria Ford. And the creature is now fully, a full demon on its own, and obviously wants to reunite with this woman so they can kind of be one entity. That's actually kind of your basic story. What do I think works in this one? I have to say, I think this is a stronger film than the first movie. The first movie, to me, was teens getting chased around in a house. It wasn't really anything particularly exciting in regards to story elements. This, to me, benefited from having the first movie being a kind of a setup, and here we have established characters, and we have the conceit where the demon is essentially split into two. So we have a woman who was born in this 300 years ago and is completely kind of like new to the world, so to speak. She's been locked in a loft for all her life, and this demon in its kind of purest form. So the story is a little bit more interesting because of this, because we're having to deal with this different situation, which kind of sets it apart from both the first movie and also other films where I think have a kind of a similar setup. It has a bit more of a comedic element to it, having this kind of like fish out of water story, with Maria Ford's character as this kind of girl who just refuses to wear clothes, again, which is quite amusing, and having Randolph really having to deal with that, because he's very kind of like, an overachiever and isn't really used to having this kind of beautiful woman be attached to him who refuses to wear clothes. It's quite funny, it has some quite funny moments. The monster itself, played by Julie Strain, I think the makeup is a hell of a lot better here. One of the critiques I had with the first movie is that, although as much as I thought the facial makeup and the prosthetics were good, the bodysuit literally looked like a bodysuit. But here, I mean, maybe you can argue it's because the demon is in its purer form, so to speak, but it looks more like they've done more work on the kind of like the body pieces and things like this, so you can see it's kind of more skin and emaciated and stuff like that. But even things like the hooves and the wings, I think, look better. And I got to be honest with you, I think Julie Strain does a better performance as the creature here than the woman who played it in the first movie, who I thought was kind of overdoing it a little bit with kind of the hand movements and things like that. What doesn't work, I still think Randolph Carter is kind of an over-the-top character. He is more of a caricature, to be honest. And there are a few kind of continuity errors, things like, his hair looks a little different, things like, obviously it's filmed sometime after it and stuff like that. And things like David Warner and stuff, their roles are pretty much cameos, to be fair, and are kind of wasted. It's not as gory as the first one as well, I will say. And there are a couple of scenes where it kind of gets a little cheesy, particularly kind of towards the end. Although it does end with one of the most inventive ways I've ever seen having to deal with a demon, which is both... I enjoyed it because it was so off the wall, but I think sometimes other people may be thinking that's like it's just something, all this setup, and then the way it's kind of dealt with is one of the most bizarre climaxes to having to deal with a kind of a supernatural element or entity. It's bizarre. I can imagine that being a little bit divisive. Overall, though, I gotta be honest with you, I actually enjoyed this one quite a lot. It feels more of a kind of like the 80s films that have stood the test of time more. It has that element of kind of like 80s funness about it than maybe the first one did, which was pretty, it's a capable film, but it was ultimately quite generic. I actually give this one a 7 out of 10. I enjoyed it quite a lot. Have you seen it? Which one did you prefer? Did you prefer the sequel or the original? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.